I do want to share with our viewers here some video and some sound of now the late Charlie Kirk speaking to this crowd of students in Orem, Utah. And it wasn't just students, I should add. This event was open to anyone that wanted to come. And here's what he was saying just moments before that deadly shot rang out.
Transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many. Counting or not counting gang violence.
Hello guys, David Vose here. What a beautiful day here in New Mexico. It's not such a great day for Charlie Kirk and his family, and I dare say I don't think this is going to be a great day looking back on America or the world. I have a few things I want to say today about this, and I'm going to have to be very careful about what I say. But I hope you're all having a wonderful day in spite of the events of yesterday. You know, I have not felt whatever that feeling was that I had last night when Paula told me that Charlie Kirk had been assassinated. And, you know, she said, well, he was shot. And she said, Charlie Kirk was shot. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't completely certain who Charlie Kirk was, because though I knew him well, of course, everyone's seen him on your YouTube feeds or TikToks or whatever. He's always debating the students at universities or wherever, and you know, he was a Christian, although not exactly my kind of Christianity. I personally disagree with him on quite a few issues, maybe just about everything. But I liked him as a person. I really liked him. I think he was a really likable guy. But when I heard that he was shot, I thought, oh, well, that's crazy. I mean, is he okay? She says, no, he was assassinated. He's gone. Right through the throat. And, you know, it stunned me, because I didn't know who he was. It just wasn't. I said, oh, Charlie Kirk, isn't that the guy that sits and debates in front of the universities with the kids and stuff? And she goes, yeah. And I'm like, no. Are you talking about the guy that we see all the time on the YouTube shorts and stuff, and he's debating? Yeah. No. Really? Like that Charlie Kirk? Yeah, that's the one. And I really couldn't believe it, because, you know, it really reminded me, as soon as I heard that, it reminded me when I was a very young boy. My dad came home, and he was working at a sawmill in Forest Hill, California, up in the mountains above Auburn, California, up in the foothills of the Sierras, north of Sacramento. And, you know, remember, growing up, we were Jehovah's Witnesses. We didn't care about politics. We weren't allowed to vote. And we didn't even think about politics. We didn't have any individuals on the news that we liked. We didn't identify or side with liberals or Republicans. I don't think we even knew what a liberal or Republican or anything was. We were taught, Jehovah's Witnesses are taught to stay out of politics, and it's all of the world. And they were all bad. They were all working for the devil. I agree. More now than ever. And I have to be very careful what I say here today. But my dad came home, and I was probably, I don't know how old I was, but just a kid in first, second, or third grade. Well, probably second grade or something. And I remember my dad was visibly shaken, or I wouldn't use the word shaken, but I could tell at that young age that something really bad had happened. He said, "Did you hear?" I don't know. I think he said, told my mother, "Did you hear that Kennedy," I think it was the brother, RFK. It couldn't have been the other one because I probably was too young when that happened, but or I might not have been born. I'm not sure exactly what year JFK was assassinated, but it might have been the RFK. I'm pretty sure. I have to go back and look at the dates. I've looked at it before. I'm almost positive it was RFK, and I just remember Kennedy. He'd been assassinated, and I remember, Mom and Dad was discussing it. Like, we didn't discuss politics. I know it was a really big day. It was the only other time that was more earth-shattering event that occurred. I was working at this restaurant, and they had this television in the cafeteria where people that would come and sit at the coffee bar could watch television, the news or something. And I'd gone out into the area behind the counter to get something, and the television was on, and literally these planes were coming and flying into the buildings. And I saw it was 9/11. And it was like, what are we being attacked by? Is this it? World War III? I mean, certainly if somebody's flying airplanes into this Twin Towers, and then it was like all day we were watching this, and finally it just collapsed several buildings, and it was the most ridiculous thing. It was like, what? It was shocking. I don't think this event would completely compare to 9/11, but everybody was shocked when 9/11 happened. And I'm sure everyone was shocked when JFK was shot. And other things like Martin Luther King. Have you ever noticed? You've heard things, and it's very confusing to people. You've heard that before President Kennedy was assassinated, before he was shot, there were a couple of speeches he gave. It was, looking back, we've been shown these things that he said, like, the bad people that's going on, secret societies. He was speaking out against it. We were told he was trying to do something with the money, help people. He was doing some good things. And I guess he was fighting the CIA. Well, George Bush Sr. was the CIA chief. And somehow or another, later on, he becomes president, which is, really crazy. But so we say, well, they got him. They shot him. Somebody shot him. Why? Well, obviously, he was talking crap about the secret societies and CIA and clandestine powers and shadow governments, and was trying to do something about it. That's what we are told. Okay, was it all set up? Did they tell him to say those things? Why would they do that? And then have him execute, there's, you think, well, no, this country is a great country. I mean, look at, he was a martyr. We all love him. Everybody loves Kennedy. He's like the greatest president and supposedly, of our modern times. Well, now, of course, Trump, everybody's going to be saying Trump's the greatest. But up until Trump, everybody thought Kennedy was the greatest president. Before that, it was Lincoln. Before that was Washington. We made idols out of these individuals. Not we, excuse me, but somebody makes idols out of these individuals. Remember George Washington? They gave him a monument. Now, not any monument. It's an obelisk, like Cleopatra's obelisk. These monuments, especially ones like that at a capital of the world, this is tradition that goes back to Egypt. This is where it all starts, guys. Heliopolis. This is the center of the world. We keep telling you guys on this channel about Heliopolis. And when Rome took over, they moved that area up in Goshen on the northern part of the Nile River, and right where the Great Pyramid is, that Isaiah 19:19 says is the temple of the Lord. It represents a place in the skull called the pineal gland, which would be the gate of El, because there's a parallel tower in Babylon called Babel, the gate of El. And you ascend and you go through that gate to see the Lord. It's your third eye. Well, when Rome took over, they took those needles, those obelisks that look like kind of pyramid type things that were standing in front of the Great Pyramid, which the Great Pyramid is a monument to Osiris. There's the empty tomb, the great king, the blueprint for every king that ever came after. They were even comparing Donald Trump to Julius Caesar, who had a lot of similarities to Osiris. But they took those, like Cleopatra's needle or obelisk, and moved them to Rome, and then eventually wherever the capital of the world was, they kept moving them, and now we've got some of them that were brought over supposedly on ships over to America. And we've got the pyramid on the dollar bill and all this stuff. Everybody knows, the dark occult knows, the Illuminati knows that there's something important about that Great Pyramid. But there's an apostasy. A lot of people think the Antichrist is he's a bad guy and and he's coming to kill us all. Yeah. But it's not like nobody. He's of royal blood. He's going to have lineage back to King David too. But he's an apostate. Jesus kept talking about these stewards that were supposed to feed the sheep, but they're going to say in the latter days, our master delayeth his coming. And they begin to go and beat their fellow servants. And they go back to the gluttony and the drunkenness, drinking the wine of drunkenness, because that is a symbol of going back to the law of Moses. And that's what we're about to do here in this country. The great apostasy is about to happen, and they need a catalyst. I'm not saying this particular thing could be the only catalyst. This is one of many, but this is a big one. So, the fact that they gave Washington an obelisk and put it there at this temple we call Washington, D.C., with the Ben, the woman's private area, which is what the dome is, the vulva. And then there's a baptismal font running down a park. And at the other end of this baptismal font, you've got the male sex organ. There's the female, there's the male, there's a lot of fertility symbolism, which is what the ancient temples were teaching, is this great principle, the great wedding, the Ariels, Gamos, and stuff, but we're not going to get into that today. So they idolize people that they maybe they don't like. Like, what are we going to do with Washington? He's creating a country of liberty and justice for all. Let's try to go in there and infiltrate it and destroy it. Okay, they love this guy, right? So we'll make him a hero, but we'll never tell anybody about what he really stood for. So then you come down to Lincoln, and Lincoln is shot. Well, he's evidently trying to save America and do good things. Okay, understandable that the bad guys would want him out, but then why do they make him a hero? They put Lincoln in a Jupiter-like temple alongside this baptismal font where everybody makes pilgrimages. So we get a pattern started here. Somebody they don't like, talking things they don't want to be said. They use it for their advantage. They get rid of them, perhaps. A theory here. Listen carefully. We can't say too much. This is for entertainment purposes, folks. Understand me now. But it's just a concept, an idea that I'm putting forward that I want you to think about. Perhaps they didn't like Washington, so why would they memorialize him, make him a god? They didn't like Lincoln? Why did they immortalize him and make him a god? You know, is it a big psyop? What are they doing? And then we come down to Kennedy. He was doing things they didn't want, so they got rid of him, maybe? Who's they? Well, we're not going to say. We're not allowed to say that. But they got rid of him, and then boom, they put him on a coin, his picture. And everybody in grammar schools learning about Kennedy and how wonderful it was. But almost nobody, I mean, except for a modern TikTok or YouTube short, you're never going to hear about the things that Kennedy was saying before he was taken out. You won't know anything about that. They had to stop that. They didn't want him talking about stuff like that. Okay, but they didn't want to make a martyr out of him for the wrong reasons. They didn't want people to remember him for the things he really did that was really good. So they got rid of that, brushed it aside, and made him a martyr, but just in a general way that America is so great, right? And remember, they didn't do anything about the CIA after that. It's not like, oh, we solved the problems, thank goodness, he was a martyr and died for truth, right? Propelled the actions that we wanted. No, they thwarted the actions that we wanted by ending him and then making him a martyr. And then telling everybody, the young children, the reason he's so wonderful and he's a martyr is because he was a good president. He believed in the law and order. He believed in all the police and the CIA and the money system and the judges and all the police on the streets. He's wonderful. Oh, look at this man named Martin Luther King. Why, he's getting crowds in the streets. And all the people love him. Freedom, freedom at last. Oh, boy, that's a good line. We're going to, let's take pictures. Everybody's taking pictures. Right, this is the time when there's hippies and the peace movement and get out of Vietnam or whatever. And they had to do something about it. So they did. But then we make him a martyr. Not because of the things he was really saying or the things he really stood for. But they will say, oh yeah, he stood for peace or he stood for liberty, freedom. But then they get rid of the guy and then change the freedom or the liberty that he was talking about into some other kind of liberty. Like, not freedom to speak, not freedom to live and pursue happiness, and all men are created equal. That's not it. They wanted to use that and twist it and say, yeah, even people who want to change their identity as a dog, from human to dog, and they want to have doctors surgically put canine teeth in, or file them down and somehow surgically add a tail or something. And this is our freedom. So we're going to pursue this insanity. We've got the freedom to kill our babies now. Oh, so you see how they twisted that. So now here we have a man, Charlie Kirk, and we've got footage of him saying that he had changed his mind about what the Israeli government was doing over there. Because as time went on, he began to change his views. He thought, well, this isn't right. We can't just let Israel just genocide. We can't talk too much about that today. But Charlie Kirk's views were beginning to change. And at least this is the narrative that somebody's going to start playing, because there's little clips of Charlie saying, hey, he thought that entity that we just talked about was going to try and kill him. And that's why he was wearing body armor when he was shot yesterday. Because he believed that they were going to try and take him out. And he thought, well, if I wear body armor, I'll be all right. Well, I guess it ricocheted off of the body armor somehow and hit him in the throat. Isn't that a little twinkle dinkle? Like, isn't it a little odd that something like that coinkydink would happen? I see these coinkydinks everywhere, like strange things. They don't want somebody to do something, and just some strange coincidence happens. It's, that is always in favor of the financiers, shall we say. I'm going to play you some clips here to show you some of this, what I'm talking about. The man on the roof, remember the same thing with Trump? Like, everybody knew the guy was on the roof, positioned, waiting to take his shot. And there was no ambulance there. There was no police trying to remove the guy on the roof. We'll show you video of that. Just like I believe what happened to Trump in his ear, we won't say anymore, some few months ago before he was elected president, I believe that was intended to conjure up emotions and feelings in the direction that they wanted it. I believe we had, I don't know how many years of liberalism, far liberal left, people, children running around being, mutilated by dossiers, right, who were bound by the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, do no abortions. Did you know that was in the Hippocratic Oath? I don't know if they're still, uttering that. But a doctor is required to give that oath, take that oath, that they will do no harm or use any like drugs. They could use herbs, but not any drugs. That's in the Hippocratic Oath. And do no abortions or do any harm, or like they consider that meaning a doctor was not supposed to do surgery under the Hippocratic Oath. There was no allowance for the ancient physicians like Luke in the Bible, who was a physician. They were required to take the Hippocratic Oath, which said they would not do operations, mutilate people. That it's anyway, I better get off that subject. But this kind of extremism is very common in America or in the world. They use it. Pope Francis, who recently passed away, was part of this stuff going on in Argentina, still going on today, you know, like with Reagan and the Iran-Contra and all of this stuff that was going on. It was the CIA going down and putting Ortega in power to run drugs in the world, not to stop the drugs. And we're never told what's going on, but they go into these countries and create and foment this chaos. And they teach it in the universities for the children, and they recruit terrorists and all of this. They have a mafia-style modus operandi that they're using. And one of the things they do is they use public opinion and have big events. You're certainly aware of the fact of things that we've said here on this channel and other people have talked about, certain things that happen in schools, right? Where children end up very sad. Well, that's all we're going to say about that. They seem to be very timely, and perhaps there is a political motive for some of these things. Maybe we better not say anymore. But the reason why I'm being so careful is because I'm going to show you clips where that redacted guy is saying that it's enough. And all the people in the scuttle-buttle is saying it's enough. We're tired of these liberals, these darn transgenders. Right? We're going for them now. You know, Trump wants to go in and round everybody up and off with their heads. Listen, I don't want crime and evil in the world. The premise that there is such a thing in our hearts as humans, that we're all evil. Why, look, Dave, look at the history. Everybody's evil. Wars and death and mass, dying. Dictators but nobody realizes all of this is conjured by the sorcerer. It's not magic, it's sleight of hand. It is politically motivated. It is cultivated. It is MK Ultra mind control. Jim Jones had CIA right there with him. Jehovah's Witnesses got a tunnel under their Brooklyn headquarters straight to the synagogue. And, they were bringing these guys over, Charles Russell, after World War I, and they created Hollywood. This is the Aleister Crowley, Anton LaVey, Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, all of these plants from the Illuminati to create the CIA, the FBI, and the hippie movement, and now in the last 10 years or so, it's all been this movement of getting people to burn down cities and riot because they have rights. They want to be a horse now, right? They want to murder their babies, and we're just supposed to say, well, that's everybody's choice. That's a woman's choice to murder her baby. You silly. Don't you know we're in a liberal phase now? And then the other people are like quietly going, this is ridiculous, but there's no outlet. Nobody's saying anything. We're getting pissed. Like, this is terrible. We believe in freedom, of course, right? But this isn't freedom. So then they shift it, and now Trump comes in on his white horse. Only this horse isn't really too white, is it? This might be Apollyon, right? With his bow and the poison arrows. Sorcery, right? That it speaks of in Revelation chapter 8. She's got a potion in her cup. Her sorcery. And we're told to get out of her. We don't want to share with her in her sins and partake of her plagues. What plagues? Oh my goodness. Plagues are coming? What is in that cup that she drinketh? And who is this mystery Babylon? Well, guys, in her was found all the blood of all the martyrs from the beginning of time. And that's what Jesus said of Jerusalem. Because the real Jerusalem was at Heliopolis, and that Jerusalem's not Jerusalem. That is mystery, Babylon the Great, that has a kingdom over the kings of the earth. And the Lord will put it into the hearts and the minds of the kings of the earth that is on the beast, the one world government that they're creating right now, right on cue. He puts it into their hearts to burn her with fire. And that's about to happen. I guarantee it. And not only that, but you're about to see a lot of rounding people up. Do we have to describe this in explicit terms for you? People are going to be, remember the guillotines that the government purchased, millions of them, and pine boxes, like, or I guess they were made out of plastic, but these coffins that the government had where stocked up with these millions of coffins and guillotines and white trucks with shackles in the back down on the somewhere in Texas. There's this whole field of white trucks that never been used, haven't used them yet, with like Suburbans with seats and shackles in order to round people up. Convenient, huh? And then when they round them up, what are they going to do? Have a public trial and off with their head? Well, the Bible says that they'll be beheaded. I don't know if that's literal or symbolic, but I'm telling you, they're about to let us know. And they need a catalyst. They need people to say, we're tired of it. We're tired of it. Oh, you're out there burning people, cities down. We're not going to let you do that anymore. Well, that's the obvious thing that everybody would probably want not to do that anymore. Right? So we'll all be on board when they come with the buses and the shackles. Oh, but they're terrorists, Dave. Well, maybe there are. They brought them in. The last administration brought them in, paid them, manipulated us, pissed us off. Right? The old bumbling idiot falling off the stage, this old guy and a drunk Pelosi. They probably did it that way so it would be like, oh, it's incompetence. That's all it was. It was the prior administration that went bonkers in their head and were trying to destroy America. Now we're going to make it great again. And everybody's going to get on board. They're going to show pictures of, oh, some transgender just went berserk and went to some school and did something, we can't talk about. Well, we obviously can't allow that anymore. And interestingly enough, Charlie Kirk, just before he was asked the question about transgender mass outings. And he's like sipping his coffee and sitting there in body armor, right? And boom, we don't get to see that part, and we're not going to play that part, but that's the part that really makes you sad for Charlie Kirk and his family. And it really does make me sad. And I don't know that he had anything to do with any of this. But on the other hand, look, I don't know, but it is odd to me that he's in Orem, Utah, right? It's the outskirts of Salt Lake City where the FBI, seems to be running the whole thing. Now it's the FBI that's doing the investigation. And somehow or another, they didn't have any ambulance. They didn't have any police there. They they had to drag him into a SUV to try and get him, probably died inside the SUV, redacted guy said. They didn't have any ambulance, and they didn't do anything about the shooter actively lying up there with a rifle, waiting for this moment when Charlie Kirk said something about transgender. And now then they come out with, oh, we've got the guy, and it's some homeless guy, and it wasn't him. And it's like, what? Why would they say that they had the guy, but they didn't? And now they're like, oh, we can't find him. He just got away. Was he another person that we now, in the future will dig up some classified information and find out he was working for the CIA too, or the FBI, which is headquartered somewhere, with these people, this particular Masonic branch of the Illuminati is their headquarters. Well, I'm gonna stop there for a minute, and I want to show you a couple of more clips, and then I'm going to say another couple of things. And watch this.
So I'm particularly concerned about your brand of Christianity. As a Christian myself, Christian nationalism, I do not agree with at all. I think it's antithetical to the values of the early church. And I think, how do you reconcile especially white Christians in this America, marrying politics and power with their faith in this country?
Well, there's a lot there. I've never described myself as a Christian nationalist. So I'm a Christian and a nationalist, so I've never used those two.
And then right there, that and nationalist, where in the scriptures does a Christian...
Well, thank you. Jeremiah 29:7, demand the welfare of the nation that you are in, because your welfare is tied to your nation's welfare. Let me continue. Daniel fasted and prayed for his nation. Esther and Mordecai cared for their nation. They were counsel to the king.
Right.
Nehemiah, Jeremiah, Joseph, Jacob. I could keep on going. Moses, Aaron. In fact, Moses was so political that he wrote an entire book of the Torah all about how to set up a government. It's the book of Deuteronomy. So, in fact, the Bible is an explicitly political text amongst many other things.
Now, can we interpret those texts in the light of the revelation of Christ? Because you just cited all Old Testament texts, but you've not once cited St. Paul.
Okay, yeah. If you want me to also, by the way, just so we are
St. Paul about the kingdom of heaven and the government.
Just so we're clear, do you think that the New Testament is greater than the Old Testament?
It is. It is greater because the revelation of Christ dictates how we interpret the Old Testament.
So you think that all of a sudden, like Genesis 1 is not as great just because of the New Testament?
The Old Testament was a type and shadow of the things to come, and now we live in the full revelation of Christ.
Again, that is
by definition
such
lesser.
A dangerous theological...
That's not true. That's Christological theology.
Hold on. Of course I believe in the resurrection. But to all of a sudden say that, like, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth is, like, somehow lesser because of the revelation of the New Testament. Christ even said, I did not come to abolish the law of the prophets. I came to fulfill the law. In fact, he said all the laws of the prophet hang on the two teachings, Leviticus 19 and Deuteronomy 3-5.
Okay, I'm about to say something really controversial, and I really got to be careful, because you're going to find out later on that the whole purpose for all of this is they're going to try to find, it's going to be cracking down on free speech. If, you know, it's one thing to arrest people for doing bad things, you know, that we all know what bad is. But they're talking about monitoring your Facebook now, because we can't have people saying things that they don't want them to say, and they might just go round them up. And so I've got to be more careful now, don't I? Not because I would say anything wrong, but because of the fact that I don't necessarily agree with some of the things that they're going to be promoting. I don't believe in getting the mark of the beast, if you know what I mean. But that's it. We're not going to talk more about that here. But I wonder if you have ever thought that something like this orchestrated event that he goes around from place to place, isn't coordinated. He's got some other thing, this program or organization he's founded. Where's this guy? You know, we think he's just some talented young man that went around and he did all this and organized himself. I know personally that when I started off, I was growing and got up to 216,000 subscribers, and before they shut me down because I refused to go along with it. They wanted to come in, they wanted to send CIA or people to monitor and encourage me to act this way and talk this way, and I didn't do it. So they shut me down so that I can't get out. I know how other channels work. I know because I started when YouTube was getting off the ground, and how they would have programs that bring you in and give you more subscribers and make your channel grow. But you had to follow a certain, you know, you had to have some kind of controls and people watching and monitoring and telling you what to say and do. And I said, no, thank you. And so therefore my channel stopped right there. And they turned that dial, which promotes you, all the way down to 0. Took them a few clicks, right? They went from 10 to 5 to 3 to 2 to 1, and I'm down on 0 now. And all I got left is a few of you who are still remember me and go look for me. Yeah, if you watch every day, they'll put something in your feed and say, oh, he's got another video. But only for those who watch all the time. If you stop watching for a while, they'll unsubscribe you or something. But this guy, you don't think that this is orchestrated, that perhaps this young man, a black man, right, perfectly choreographed, has this amazing argument. What about the New Testament? What about love, you know? That's the Old Testament, the types and shadows. I talk about that all the time. And what does Charlie Kirk say? Well, he's got the verses right there, right at his mind. And I know there are people that can do that, and I've got the Bible memorized pretty well too. But I've been doing this since I was a child. But I don't know if Charlie Kirk could have done that smoother. No retakes. It was take one, action, camera, boom. He had all the lines that would go out to the unsuspecting world who thought, oh, the Bible's just the Bible. Old, new, it's the same thing. And then he came up with the perfect line because he had no verse from Paul to refute this young man. He didn't have anything that Jesus said that could refute the young man. So what did he say? Oh, well, you think the Old Testament's inferior. So you don't believe the world was created in Genesis 1. Oh, pretty good argument, except for unsuspecting people aren't realizing that the Old Testament is scripture, divine scripture, showing you why we're in this mess. Because all the people there at Israel, at Mount Sinai, said, this we will do. And they followed the deity of vengeance. But according to Acts chapter 7, the tent of Yahweh was the tent of Molech, and they were sacrificing to the demons. That's why all the way through, even Isaiah and Jesus and everybody said, what are you doing? Your deity is the devil. Your father's the devil. You wish to do the desires of your father. Your house is left unto you desolate. Well, I better stop there. But I'm just saying, I do not agree at all with what Charlie Kirk believed, but I love the man. I do think, maybe he's just an actor. Honestly, I don't know what's up or down anymore. I'm going to do a video tomorrow about this flat earth that will blow your mind. I was going to do it today, but something else just popped up that I had to talk about. So I don't know if this was choreographed or not, but just saying, how about this? We've got like little clips from, I don't know when, where he's talking about how he's going to be remembered. And it specifically, he says, oh, I want to have courage for my faith. Could this be some choreographing? I don't want to say that word. Very important that I'm very careful here. But take a listen.
How do you want to be remembered? If I die, everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith in my life.
Oh, well, I know a lot of you are like, come on, Dave. He's a public figure. People are going to ask him things. It's just that came up one day and he answered a question. So what? Well, notice that his answer was he wanted to be remembered for his faith. He wanted to remember for his courage. Really, 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 really a very interesting thing to say, especially since I don't know of anybody that would say that. If you ask me what I'd like to be remembered for, I would say, I would like my family to remember that I love them. I would like to know that I was a good person, or I don't know, but I don't think I would say, yeah, I would want to have the courage to go out and be a martyr. Now, all right, enough of that. I want to show you what Redacted had to say about this. This might just curdle your milk. Take a listen.
I think we're at a tipping point moment for this country, and I don't say that lightly. I'm devastated about what this means for the future of our country. This does not end well. And when you have all of this rhetoric of violence from people across social media calling for attacks on people like Charlie, we knew it was going to come to this. We knew it was inevitable, sadly. Assassination attempt on President Trump, attacks on other fellow conservative commentators. But I have a lot of unanswered questions about today, and I just want to kind of go through them. Watching the video so many times, getting analysis from friends and law enforcement and sources that were there at the event. How did this happen? How did a shooter who was on the roof and seen by many students, pointed out by many students, allowed to lay prone at 200 yards, in a perfectly prone position in order to fire on Charlie, Getting right up.
Yeah. You think he'd already be in place?
You would think that. So there's somebody on the roof right there? Just saying. He just ran from where's my finger? Whoa. From over there, ran in, and now he's right there. Just saying. To fire a perfectly timed shot right as he's speaking about violence in the United States, right as he's talking about trans mass shooters in the United States, and asking us to all reflect on this. This is a question we've asked on our show. Why are so many of these mass shootings carried out by people that are likely on SSRIs and some sort of medication, mental illness, and they're trans? Can we have that conversation? No, let's just shoot you instead. We don't want to talk about that because that's intolerant. Why was he wearing body armor? Why was Charlie Kirk wearing body armor? And of course, the way that the bullet hits him, you can see it clearly bouncing right off. It was a kill shot aimed right for his heart, to hit his aorta, to hit that entire. But more importantly, why was there no ambulance or EMT on site? In Utah, as in other states, state regulations require gatherings over a certain percentage of people, over a certain number of people. Even cities have different regulations, require an EMT on site and an ambulance. We do know that Charlie had told friends in recent weeks that he feared that Israel was going to kill him. Those are Charlie's words to friends, not mine, because his views on what has been transpiring in Gaza as the genocide has unfolded has evolved significantly from where he was months ago, apparently, according to friends that knew him well. So why was he wearing body armor? I mean, I guess just sort of any protection in an event like this would make sense, right? But he was telling friends that he actively thought he was going to be killed.
Okay. My commentary on that. I don't have any commentary for that. As they always say, what you just saw speaks for itself. Very telling. La-di-da-di-da. Draw your own conclusions. But it's pretty odd to me. But I'm not going to say anything else.
But at the heart of it, for me, I believe we are at a tipping point moment for the United States. For far too long, conservative men, independent men, have been too tolerant, and they've been sitting back and they've been allowing this violence to go on.
And I'm not going to play the rest of his words, although I want to, but I've played too much of it already, and I don't know how they're going to react to putting all of his words on here, for copyright reasons or whatever. But let me just stop it there. I think this, just imagine a lot of words like that he talks from this point forward, where he's basically saying, we're done. And you can see he puts up this Ella Molding comment. I guess this is something he played over some platform media, social platform thing. And somebody's listening and they commented evidently. Or is this just a pretend Ella Molding that doesn't exist? But it says the time for tolerance is over. You're done. Trump's coming in to round you guys up and you're going to jail. We might even use these little thingies that Obama bought some years ago that's just sitting over there rotting in a warehouse to get rid of you. We've even got the caskets. Well, you can go online and watch the whole interview for yourself, or the whole, not an interview, his little serious moment with us, the public, telling you and me and all of us his concerns and how he's just so sick of it. And he says all of his friends, very powerful people. Remember, he used to work for Fox News, just like Glenn Beck, right? He's this guy on Fox News. Now he's got his own nationally syndicated program. You know, he's got his own Fox News, right? Him and his wife, who also, I think, used to work for one of the news agencies. And if you don't think that they've got all these news agencies sewed up, I mean, he's doing well. They allow him to say whatever he's saying, controlled opposition, whatever it is. I mean, he sounds like everybody, you know, is for him. He seems so sincere. Glenn Beck, same thing. But, you know, remember, Glenn Beck's Mormon too. I heard, I don't know if this is true. Honestly, I don't know, but I did hear that his wife, that is his co-host, and I don't even know her name. I'm sorry. But she was supposed to have originally been a Jehovah's Witness or something. And I don't know, you know, anything more about this couple. But, you know, it's like it's just right there. This is it. The whole thing was just like, we're just pissed off now. That's it. There's no more time for tolerance. It's over. It's over. Now, couple that with the things that Trump's trying to do with the military, going into DC and now to Chicago, and then I think he's moving on over to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then probably next he'll be in Los Angeles, and him and Newsom will have a knockdown drag out. You can't have my transgenders. No, they're mine, you know, and we're taking them. No, you're going to leave them. I'm going to, you know, whatever. You're a bad guy. You can't come here. I'm the governor. I can do what I want. We want all these homeless people. We want the drugs on the street. We want the welfare program here. And Trump's going to be like, oh, this is ridiculous. So the whole world's going to be on Trump's side. It's all state urged. There was a letter in between that state urged that I didn't say. You might have guessed it was an A. You know, these guys that watch my videos and check to see if they're authorized by the government probably know how to read. So we've got to be very careful, and they know how to spell. But anyway, I just think that this is such a, you know, if I thought there was something to the school, you know, things where children were very sad, you know, that kind of thing, where they put up the yellow ribbon around the school complex, if you know what I'm saying. If I thought any of that was a little weird and opportunistic and maybe politically motivated, I probably think this strikes me as even more so. And I think I'll just leave it there. And then you guys can decide for yourself and you know, so what does it mean? Well, buckle up, guys. Buckle up. I think, you know, if you want an example of what might happen, you know, people were saying this too before Trump came into office, like, oh, strikingly similar to what happened in 1942, you know, in Germany. And that didn't end well. You know, they wanted to clean up their country too because they were pissed off at the same. It's like a rerun. They were pissed off at the same people, right? Running their, you know, and then it was nationalism. And it was like, you say, oh, come on, Dave, there's no correlation whatsoever. Well, there is, you know. Somehow or another, it's okay for us to say, hail to the chief, but don't you dare say, heil the, you know, the Ein Führer. That's evil. Why, my goodness, they were hailing him. And now we're hailing the chief. You know, you go back and listen to the speeches, and look, they were just trying to help you. They just wanted to stop the forces that be from taking everything they had. And that's why they were nationalists. And this is what's going on here. They're beating the drums. The drum beat is leading up to something. Somebody's going to be sacrificed here. Ow, 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 ow. Hum, bum, 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 bum. You know, when that starts going and you're tied to a stake in the middle of a fire pit, you better start praying. Anywho, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. I hope you have a wonderful evening. If you can. And you can. And here's how you do it. You just know that all of this was prophesied. And if we understand that Jesus is in control, I guarantee the living deity is in control. And he has told you, if you get out of Babylon, you will not have to partake of her sins and share in her plagues. And not one hair of your head shall be harmed, but on account of the elect, those days shall be shortened. And we will be in the wilderness, right? Away from the face of the serpent. And there will be a table set before us in the wilderness. He will say, hide but just for a moment under my tent. You know, that's the Day of Tabernacles, where we acted this thing out for thousands of years, because there'll be a time when we have to go inside this little tent in the wilderness, right? Until the indignation be past. But don't you worry, the Lord loves you, and not one hair of your head shall be harmed. Speak boldly in his name. Don't you worry. They want you to think that they can take you out like they did Charlie, but they can't. Not as long as you stand in your integrity. They have no right. They cannot do anything to anyone but that you agree to it. They want you to get rid of yourself. They ain't going to get rid of you. They want you to go out and get so depressed that you go up and, start believing in vengeance and killing your neighbor. And it'll be brother against their own brother, father against son, daughter against mother. Jesus says a man's enemies will be those of his own household. And there will be race against race, kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation, earthquakes in one place after another, and the waves of the sea foaming out their shame, men's hearts failing them for fear. But you understand that the tribulation is not designed. Remember, this is the harvest, the end of the age. And the angels are the reapers. They're the ones who will pass over your house because you have the blood of Christ, because you've chosen to forgive your brother and not go out and murder them. You don't have the mark of the beast, which is the vengeance, the deity of vengeance and hate, and the law of Moses written on your hand or your forehead. But you've got the seal of the living deity right there on your forehead, which is the Holy Spirit, the promised Holy Spirit, which is what? The holy mind, love. Because you've received the love of the truth, that you might be saved or delivered from this wrath that is coming. All you got to do is make up your mind. We're not appointed unto the wrath. Why? Because we've chosen grace. We make up our own mind. Whatsoever you do unto them shall be done unto you, Jesus said. That's the way it goes down here in the time of the end, in the day of judgment. And if you don't think this is the great judgment, where the Apostle Paul says that we'll all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, because Christ is coming. And they'll want to hide themselves in the rocks, in the holes of the mountains, saying, fall on us, hide us from the one who is coming and from the brightness of his coming. The truth, the love of the truth that's coming. They can't take it. They're going to hide in the darkness. They're going to do bad things to each other. They're not going to be getting out of Babylon, right? They're not going to have any oil in their lamps. They're going to miss out on the great wedding for those who remain until he comes. Standing on Mount Zion, playing their 10-string harp, harmony, singing, salvation we owe to our deity. Hosanna, Hosanna, blessed be he who comes in the name of the Lord. And it's on that mountain, the mountain of transfiguration, that we will be changed, because we will remain until he comes. Because we got victory over the beast in his image. I'm quoting these verses because I want you to understand it's completely clear that we can get the victory in Christ. And there is no condemnation in those who walk after Christ. Because whatever you judge for another, you will be judged accordingly. If you cannot forgive your brother, then you will be not forgiven. Just receive the love of the truth that you might be saved and delivered from this wrath that's coming. It is coming, friends. Yahweh's coming in his vengeance. And the devils and the demons are going to be let loose out of the bottomless pit. And Jesus said, if those days were not cut short, no flesh would be saved. Look at the book of Enoch, first few chapters. It talks about the time of the end, when all of this wickedness is going to be gotten rid of. And those who do the wickedness will be gone because of the fact that the righteous are coming with the saints. This is quoted in the New Testament. He comes with 10,000s of his saints, or myriads of angels in some versions, because we're the angels coming down on white horses. What is it? We're going to see horses coming out of the sky? No. We all will appear before the judgment seat of Christ. What is the judgment seat of Christ? Look at Revelation. The hour of his judgment has come. Fear deity and give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has come. This is the judgment. We'll all appear. And Daniel and Job and Jeremiah and John and everyone and all the prophets were told you will stand in the latter days to receive your lot. Standing in the Bible is the word they use to refer to the resurrection. Standing up again in the flesh. It really means to incarnate again. And so the saints are coming. Jesus is coming again, just like Elijah was to come, who was born of a woman. We don't fly down out of the sky. That's a symbol. We're incarnated on the earth. This is our home. We don't wander around as spirits and never have a home. We're going to be standing. And Job says, I will see my Savior in the flesh in the latter days. And so here we are. Now, keep your integrity and keep your faith. And understand that no matter what happens, stand in your integrity. Do not harm your brother. Do not fall for the deception or the lie of vengeance and killing and war and rounding people up. That's the concept of the devil. The deity of vengeance. And that's why Jesus said, no, thank you. I will not bow down to this one who tempts me in the wilderness 40 days. Just like Israel was tempted by Yahweh for 40 years and said, if you'll just do what I say and bow down to me. First 3 commandments, get down and bow to me or I'll kill you. Second commandment, bow down to me, make no images or I'll kill you. Third commandment, don't speak any other name but mine, bow down to me or I'll kill you. And the fourth one, you've got to be a slave and serve. And all women are slaves. Exodus 21 verse 7. When you sell your daughter as a slave. Do you want to go by that old law? Vengeance, genocide, slavery, hate, the deity of vengeance. You see, the point is well, we've got to have vengeance, Dave. What about people do bad things? That belongs to the Lord. He's merciful. There are certain consequences. When people put their hand in the fire, it burns. He's trying to get you to pull it out. He loves everyone. He's patient with all, that they all might attain unto repentance. That's none of our business. We're not our brother's judge or our brother's ruler. But we've got to have faith that the Lord has it under control, and the devil is doing this because there's too many people on the earth that are believing Satan. They're being deceived. And they have all free will. All of our brothers have free will. We have to let them, they'll go out there and murder each other, but it will not come nigh to you. I'm going to leave you with this one verse in the book of Psalms. All right, I want to show you Psalms chapter 90 first, but I want to read you chapter 91. But I want you to understand that chapter 90, literally says that this is where Peter gets that a day unto the Lord is like 1,000 years. And it's talking about you return man to dust, saying, return, O sons of mortals. For in your sight 1,000 years but a day that passes. And then, or a watch of the night. Well, so it's saying there are 2,000 years. For it says, in your sight, 1,000 years is but a day that passes. And then there's a night also, a day and a night. That's 2,000 years. And it's basically talking about quickly passing, and your wrath matches the fear you are due. Return, O Lord, how long will it be? That's what we're saying now. Christ was on the earth 2,000 years ago and saying, you know, people will get impatient. Where is the promised coming of the Lord? And this is what it's saying, you know, how long, right? Establish for us the work of our hands. Yes, establish the work of your hands. So then we go to the next chapter, chapter 91. And it says, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High. Okay, this is not Yahweh, the deity of vengeance. This is the one who is the I am life, and I am the resurrection. And he says, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, you are my refuge and my fortress, my deity in whom I trust. Surely he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly plague. Now, what is the fowler, the snare? Well, that's the great deception that Satan is, when he's thrown down for the tribulation, he's going to deceive the entire world. It says he will cover you in his feathers. Under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and a rampart. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day. You're not going to feel that. Nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness. Do you know there's coming pestilences? We've had some. We've gone through some preparation of that. But it's not going to come near you. Nor the calamity that destroys at noon. Though 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, no harm will come near you. No harm. You will only see it with your eyes and witness the punishment of the wicked. Now, what are we talking about here? The judgment. This scripture speaks of the day of judgment. How long, O Lord? Oh, it's going to be a couple thousand years. And then when it comes, you're going to be in the shelter of the Almighty. And thousands will fall at your left hand and thousands at your right hand, but it will not come nigh unto thee. You're not going to be experiencing any of the calamity or the pestilence. And your eyes will witness the judgment, but it will not come to you. You will not be judged. Why? Because you've received his grace. So it says, because you have made the Lord your dwelling, my refuge, the Most High, no evil will befall you. I guarantee you, not a hair of your head shall be harmed, Christian soldier. And we fight the fiery darts of the devil. And we have the shield of faith and the helmet of salvation and our loins girded with truth. You got to have that truth. We're on the path of righteousness. So no evil will befall you. No plague will approach your tent. What tent? Well, we're going to be in tents in the wilderness, friends. It's the great day of tents, or the day of the booths, or the festival of tabernacles that we have to get through. We're going to be in the wilderness. And that's what this is talking about. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will not even stumble on a stone. The angels will be there taking care of you and your family. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the young lion and the serpent. Because he loves me, I will deliver him. Because he knows my name, our Father in heaven. That's his name. We learned that the other day. Dada. I will protect him. When he calls out to me, I will answer him. Does the Lord answer your prayer? Well, if not, you have not made him your refuge. You are not trusting in him. You have not dedicated your life to the faith of Jesus Christ and his love. You have not gone and told people about the love and the grace of Christ. You're not clothing the naked or feeding the hungry, are you? When you start turning unto the Lord, he will turn unto you. Do you understand? You have to literally pray all the time and seek his answers. You have to believe. You have to have faith. And that means faith enough to do, to say with your mouth, with bold confession, I don't follow this vengeance. I'm following Jesus, and I'm going to forgive my brother, and I'm going to love, and I'm going to trust in him to guide us. I'm going to get out of Babylon so I don't share with her in her plagues and partake of her sin. So he will answer you. He says, I will be with him in the trouble or in the tribulation. I will deliver him and I will honor him with long life. I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. We will get the victory, friends, over the beast and its image. Amen. I'm going to go ahead and go. The Lord loves you. May his grace and his peace be with you. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.